Good evening and welcome to episode 99 of Loomer Unleashed. I'm your host, Laura Loomer. One of President Trump's key campaign promises was to reduce wasteful government spending, rein in the bloated bureaucracy, and wrest control of the executive branch from the deep state. Now, this mission has been entrusted to Elon Musk and his newly established Department of Government Efficiency, otherwise known as DOGE. Since aligning himself with Trump's campaign in July, Musk has been one of the most vocal advocates for eliminating waste, increasing efficiency, and dramatically reducing the size and scope of the federal government. So far, Musk and his team, who have been working around the clock since Inauguration Day, have been making headlines as they are going line by line through government spending. Just in the 2 weeks since its inception, DOGE has already saved taxpayers an estimated $57 billion. That's according to the new National Debt Clock website. This weekend, Musk and DOGE entered the media spotlight for their efforts, particularly in their takeover of USAID. For those not aware, USAID, or the United States Agency for International Development, is the main avenue of foreign aid and development assistance. This is the pipeline through which billions of U.S. taxpayer dollars are pumped every single year to the third world. Originally created in 1961 as a way of spreading U.S. influence during the Cold War, the agency has since ballooned into a massive corrupt handout system spanning over 100 countries and 10,000 plus federal employees. Its annual budget? Well, it's a staggering $50 billion. That's correct. Every single year, this nation has been shipping $50 billion to shitholes around the globe in exchange for absolutely nothing but a waste of your taxpayer money. So you may think that this money might at least be put to good use, right? Well, you would be terribly mistaken. Here are just a few of the many insane initiatives that your money, our taxpayer money, has been funding through USAID. $1.5 million to promote diversity in the workplace in Serbia, $47,000 for a transgender opera in Colombia, $2 million for sex changes in Guatemala, and $50 million for condoms in Gaza. And that's just scratching the surface. The sheer scale of waste and corruption within this agency is almost unfathomable. It is difficult to believe that $50 million was legitimately spent on condoms. Money like this is almost certainly being laundered for nefarious reasons. The rot within the federal bureaucracy runs deep. Naturally, Democrats and entrenched USAID employees have been fighting tooth and nail to block the Trump administration from accessing financial records and ultimately shutting down the agency. But their efforts have been futile. USAID employees were told not to report to work on Monday, and today all overseas missions were ordered to cease operations by the end of this week. Meanwhile, Democrat lawmakers and their staffers have been barred from entering USAID offices. For years, common sense conservatives have warned that the federal government is bloated and also overrun by a class of unelected and unaccountable bureaucrats, the deep state. Thanks to the Trump administration, we are now seeing just how right we were. In fact, the reality may be far worse than we ever imagined. Restructuring the executive branch and also purging disloyal deep state operatives is essential to making this country great again. During Trump's first term, his agenda was repeatedly obstructed by these very forces and organizations. It was the shadowy liberal bureaucracy that pushed the Russia hoax, the Steele dossier, and endless roadblocks against his every move. But this time around, Trump has clearly learned from his past mistakes. Beyond DOGE, the Trump administration also made headlines this week with the announcement of tariffs against Mexico, Canada, and China, a topic we covered on Saturday here on Loomer Unleashed. Despite criticism from economists, leftists, and even some conservatives, Trump's trade strategy has already produced massive results for our country. Rather than allow these painful tariffs to take effect, Canada and Mexico rushed to the negotiating table. Both nations have now agreed, surprisingly, to immediately bolster border security and also implement measures to stem the flow of fentanyl into the United States of America. Makes you wonder why Joe Biden was never able to accomplish any of this. Gee, I wonder why. So once again, we are witnessing the art of the deal in action. Meanwhile, another foreign policy flashpoint has emerged in Panama. President Trump has repeatedly demanded that Panama curb its preferential treatment of China and even hinted at reclaiming control of the Panama Canal. Over the weekend, newly appointed Secretary of State Marco Rubio toured the Panama Canal, signaling the administration's serious stance on the issue. While Panamanian President Jose Raul Molino has publicly stated that his country will work with the United States to reduce Chinese influence, Trump does not appear convinced. It seems clear that the administration believes Panama has violated the 1977 treaty governing the canal, and a major confrontation on this front may be brewing. As the Trump administration settles in, we are witnessing the kind of bold, decisive action that so many of us have been yearning for years. The second term has already achieved more in weeks than Joe Biden managed to achieve in all of his 4 years in office. And it is poised to surpass President Trump's first administration with ease. We are truly witnessing a fundamental shift in governance, one that will reshape the executive branch for decades to come. Doesn't it feel good to be winning again? There is something unstoppable about President Trump's full court press strategy, pushing forward on multiple fronts simultaneously. The left and the deep state have been unable to mount an effective defense. They are floundering, they are panicking, and they have nothing left to throw at him.
There is a young female journalist, conservative journalist, by the name of Laura Loomer.
If America's men acted like Laura Loomer, our problems will be fixed in about 5 minutes.
Chained herself.
She chained herself.
For tuning in to episode 99 of Loomer Unleashed. We're almost at our 100th episode. I'm your host, Laura Loomer. We are live right now on Rumble NX, so please be sure that you head on over to rumble.com/Laura Loomer, click the follow button, and be sure that you subscribe there. You can follow my Rumble channel and also subscribe to my Locals channel by clicking the Get Loomer button on my Rumble page. See here, follow, and also take you over to my locals page where you can subscribe for $7 a month or $70 a year to support our production. We are also live right now on X, so please be sure that you're following me on X and that you retweet, and also share the live stream of this episode. We have a lot to talk about. Of course, we have Loomer Unleashed DC correspondent Charles Downs, who spent the morning confronting members of the Senate Democrat Judiciary Committee. And this is important because I just got a news notification on my phone moments before going live that the vote for Kash Patel's confirmation to officially move his nomination as FBI director will take place tomorrow morning. So that's going to happen live tomorrow morning at 9:15 a.m. Central. Of course, that's 10:15 a.m. Eastern. And why does this matter? Well, today, Loomer Unleashed spent the entire morning confronting these Senate Judiciary Democrats, asking them why they were intentionally and deliberately slow-walking the nomination process for Kash Patel specifically. I mean, yesterday, the votes to move the nominations of Tulsi Gabbard and RFK Jr. out of their committees and to the Senate floor for an official vote took place, and both of them were successfully able to move out of their committees for a full floor vote. We saw today that Pam Bondi was officially sworn in as the Attorney General by Justice Clarence Thomas in the Oval Office with President Trump. So congratulations. We're seeing a lot of progress in the Trump administration. As I said in my monologue, it looks like President Trump has learned his lesson from his first administration, where we saw a lot of obstructionists get positions in the administration. It took a while for President Trump to get his nominees confirmed during his first administration. And it seemed like things were really slow because we were dealing with the deep state and all of these bureaucrats and all of this red tape. But now clearly President Trump is armed and ready with a team that knows what they want, and they're not stopping and they're not letting anybody get in their way. And so we were there today to hold these Senate Judiciary Democrats accountable and ask them why they're trying to threaten our national security. Because right now, we are in a national security crisis. Just like I've talked about on this show in previous episodes in the last week, we're also in an economic crisis. We are about 3 weeks in to the new Trump administration, and President Trump is now having to operate as a crisis manager, not just the president of the United States, but a crisis manager to clean up the disaster and the mess of the Biden administration, the Biden regime these last 4 years. Because as we know, stolen elections have consequences. And as a result of the stolen election of 2020, our nation not only was invaded, not only did we have a national security crisis with open borders that allowed for dangerous criminal illegal aliens and rapists and Islamic terrorists to pour across our border, we have an economic crisis. We have all types of problems now that need to be addressed. And so you would think that they would be rushing, especially given the fact that we have a Republican majority in the House and the Senate, that they would be rushing to get President Trump's nominees confirmed so that we can fix the health crisis in our country, so that we could fix the border crisis in our country, so that we could fix the national security crisis in our country, so that we could fix the economic crisis in our country. And one of the most important of all of those, of course, is not just securing our border, but also bolstering our national security. And as President Donald Trump has said, he wants to militarize our southern border. He wants to militarize the border and have the FBI working in conjunction with the border czar and working in conjunction with Kristi Noem over at DHS to secure our border and bolster our national security. And so in order for that to happen, in order for Pete Hegseth as our new defense secretary and Kristi Noem as the head of DHS and the border czar, Tom Homan, to be able to effectively make sure that we are deporting the most dangerous criminals and terrorists in our country, we need to have the FBI director confirmed and voted into his position by the Senate so that we can clean house at the FBI, which is what President Trump has been attempting to do this week, and also have a process where you actually have a competent FBI director who doesn't say things like white Christian males are the #1 terror threat in our country. Somebody like Kash Patel, who understands the threat of Islamic terror in our country, who has experience working with the previous Trump administration and and national security officials in our country in the previous administration to bolster our national security. And so we asked these Senate Democrats today why they were intentionally slow walking the nominations and if they thought that their actions were going to jeopardize our national security. And, this is a hot button issue because the Senate Democrats, even though the vote tomorrow is taking place, the Senate Democrats and Chairman Dick Durbin of the Senate Judiciary Committee has argued that they want to have a second confirmation hearing for Kash Patel because their argument is that, well, Kash Patel is too extreme and Kash Patel wants retribution. Kash Patel is not qualified to be the next FBI director because he's a Trump loyalist. As if Christopher Wray or James Comey, who both politicized and weaponized their position as FBI director, were not politicized, right? So since when did the FBI actually care about being nonpartisan? Since when did the FBI care about not carrying out retribution against their political opponents, right? I think it's all a bunch of nonsense. And joining me now to discuss this and to discuss the absolute hypocrisy of these Senate Democrats and the confirmation process of Kash Patel is political commentator Cameron Kinsey. Cameron, thanks so much for joining me tonight on Loomer Unleashed. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing really well. How are you? Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to have you. I know that you're very outspoken and you're frequent political commentator. I've seen you on TV. You're very active on X. But I was scrolling my timeline today, and we've been talking about this a lot, right? Just the absolute hypocrisy of the Democrats who want to try to use buzzwords like retribution and political bias and political independence and judicial independence to try to bolster their arguments that President Trump's nominee are too partisan or too extreme to fill their positions. And your video was really striking to me because you yourself hit the nail on the head as to how these people are qualified to be so dismissive of Kash Patel when the FBI has done nothing but act as a form of political retribution against MAGA and President Trump's supporters by the Biden administration for the last 4 years. So what are your thoughts on this? Moments before you joined the program tonight, a news notification flashed across my phone. They finally decided to schedule the vote for Kash Patel tomorrow, despite the Democrats aggressively obstructing this. What are your thoughts on the Senate Democrats on the Judiciary Committee and their obstructionist efforts to prevent Kash Patel from becoming FBI director?
Well, I think it's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, the American people deserve a government that operates efficiently, upholds the principles of justice and of fairness. I don't think that's a big ask. I mean, it's imperative that qualified individuals like Kash Patel get in and are given the opportunity to serve with undue delay, ensuring that our institutions are led by those who are basically just committed to our nation's best interests. I mean, delaying this, even further is very, very hypocritical. It's not just political obstruction. It's a serious threat to our national security, like you mentioned just moments ago. And while the Senate Judiciary Democrats play these games, our intelligence community really remains compromised by bureaucrats who prioritize politics over security. We've seen this for the past 4 years under the Biden-Harris regime. Everybody remembers when the FBI targeted parents at school board meetings. They are basically running on a political vendetta and not within the Americans' best interest. Right now, we have an FBI, a DOJ, the entire intelligence apparatus who spent the last 4 years prioritizing this political activism. They've censored conservatives as well, as they're chasing January 6th protesters rather than stopping actual terrorists. But we know this doesn't boil down to qualifications, Laura. I mean, this is all political theater. The same people accusing us of rushing this process, like Chuck Schumer, are the same people who tried to ram through a $1.7 trillion spending bill with very 24 hours to review it. I mean, the longer Patel is it's going to take for him to take charge, the longer these agencies remain in the hands of these deep state bureaucrats who care more about their political agenda than protecting Americans. And it's truly disgusting what we're seeing, that they're willing to put our country on the line like that. We're seeing foreign adversaries that could potentially exploit a weak intelligence community. And it's not just Kash, like you mentioned. We still have Tulsi Gabbard to get through as well. And I'm interested to see if they delay her process as well. China, Russia, and Iran and these terrorist organizations politicians, they see this dysfunction within our government, and they take full advantage of it. Do not get it confused. I mean, we need an aggressive America First approach to intelligence. And I truly believe Kash Patel is the one and only person who has a track record of exposing these failures and actually fixing them. That's very hard to come by.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. And this was put on display last night just outside of the White House, because while we do not have an active FBI director right now, somebody who actually is going to aggressively approach our national security from this America First agenda, as you just said, we saw last night Senate Democrats rallying with Hamas supporters outside of the White House while President Trump was meeting with Bibi Netanyahu to discuss a resolution to the war between Israel and Gaza and the threat of Hamas, not just here in the United States, but also in the Middle East, and the threat these Iranian proxies are posing to not just our country, but also peace and stability in the Middle East region. And so you had Chuck Schumer, you had Chris Murphy, you had Maxine Waters, you had a slew of other high-profile Democrats, people like Jamie Raskin, people who are in Democrat leadership. I mean, we're talking about the Senate Minority Leader, Chuck Schumer, at the same protest where our Loomer Unleashed contributors caught Palestinian protesters waving the Hamas flag. I mean, we have some videos. We can play these too. I'd want to get your reaction to this. But how are people supposed to have confidence in a bipartisan system? Right? We're seeing the Democrat Party flailing, and they're totally out of control because I think they've just lost complete control, not just of themselves and their message, because they've allowed themselves to be hijacked by radicals and there are no sane people leading their party anymore. But where do you see the future of the Democrat Party now that they have decided that it's acceptable for not just members of the squad, but Democrat Party leadership to basically incite an insurrection with Hamas supporters outside of the White House while they're obstructing the confirmation of the FBI director?
It's absolutely insane. I mean, and these are the same people who said that Trump was a threat to democracy. I mean, what we're seeing right now with these radical protests outside the White House, it's basically a symptom of something much bigger. I mean, it's not just about Israel. It's a broader shift in the West where we've allowed these anti-American forces to really thrive. And that to me is just absolutely disgusting. I mean, whether it's Marxism in our schools, outright support for terrorists like terrorist groups like Hamas. I mean, these aren't just pro-Palestinian protests. These are anti-American, anti-Western demonstrations that have been allowed to fester because of weak-kneed politicians, like the ones that we're seeing right now, the Senate Judiciary Dems, who are stalling this process even further. But let's just talk about the bigger picture here for a second. Like, why is this instability presents an opportunity for the United States? You know, when we see an entire region devolve into lawlessness where terrorists run the show, we have to ask, I mean, is this really in America's best interest? Would we rather benefit from a more hands-on approach? I did see Chris Murphy tweet today in regard to some of the foreign policy approaches of President Trump as well. But like you said, I mean, Democrats spent years telling us that January 6th was an attack on democracy, that protests near the government buildings were a threat to the republic. It's just like, it's laughable. These people are so hypocritical. They want Trump supporters jailed for simply walking into the Capitol. But now we have a Democrat senator standing with the people, waving terrorist flags in front of the White House, calling for a revolution. We're supposed to believe that this is just a peaceful demonstration. It's just the hypocrisy is disgusting to me.
And we have that video, actually. We have that video of Loomer Unleashed DC contributor Charles Downs actually confronting Chris Murphy at the Palestinian protests. Let's go ahead and play clip number 32, because that's exactly what we said to him. We said, you know, Senator, you have been preaching about an insurrection and how when protesters approach the entrance of government buildings, that it's a threat to democracy. Yet the most sacred government building on Capitol Hill happens to be the White House. And they brought Palestinian supporters with Hamas flags to the gates of the White House. And they actually had to stop them with Secret Service drones and police because they had an individual last night who actually tried to breach the fence of the White House. He's very lucky that he wasn't shot dead because honestly, I think that that's the correct approach when you're dealing with protesters who try to scale the fence of the White House. But we'll go ahead and play this clip, and I just want to get your reaction.
Senator, why are you promoting an insurrection? Don't you think it's ironic? Don't you think it's ironic that Senate Democrats have been calling Trump supporters insurrectionists for the last 4 years, yet you're literally riling up a crowd outside the White House? Do you find that ironic, Senator?
Maybe you should be standing in front of Elon Musk's way.
You know what I find to be so interesting, Cameron, is how they talk so much shit on TV and on Twitter, and they're so loud in their press conferences where they're like, you know, Trump is a dictator and, you know, these people are insurrectionists. And yet when you actually get in their face with a camera, they run and hide and they're terrified.
Oh, yeah, it's absolutely absurd. I mean, but fortunately, Trump has pulled back the curtain and now we're seeing who these people really are. And actually, if you're smart, you've been seeing this for a long time now. But these elected officials are supposed to be, you know, put the interests of the American people essentially first in every single way, above foreign conflicts, above political posturing, above everything else, basically. I mean, it's never in the best interest of American people to stand with terrorist sympathizers, to fuel chaos outside the White House like we're seeing right now at our nation's capital, or to really even just legitimize these groups that want to see Western civilization crumble. I mean, like, you're a United States representative, whether you're pro-Israel, pro-Palestinian, don't care about the Middle East at all. There is zero justification for a U.S. senator to be standing in solidarity with people who are chanting intifada. Like, it's actually insane to me that this is even going on right now within the news cycle. It's not even about geopolitics anymore. It's about basic moral clarity. And right now, the Democratic Party has none, unfortunately.
A clip of Senator Chuck Schumer, the Senate Minority Leader, trying to rush away, right? Hoping that nobody's going to notice that they decided to utilize the violent and radical pro-Hamas Islamic protesters as background fill-in protesters for the cameras when they were holding their press conference against President Trump and Elon Musk. And look, there's plenty of things, in my opinion, to be critical of Elon over. I mean, look, I've been critical of things as it relates to free speech, and I've been critical of, you know, all the tech bros rushing to support President Trump kind of at the last minute. But I find it to be rather disingenuous from the Senate Democrats to pretend like this was an organic protest against Elon Musk and Doge and the actions taking place inside USAID when this was a pre-planned protest called Arrest Netanyahu. We have the flyers that were posted everywhere, and they just utilized this radical base. We have the videos, and the media is not calling them out for this either. And the Democrats are now just co-opting these extremely radical protests where you have individuals who are probably violating their visas. A lot of these people are probably here illegally. That's why the Trump administration probably had a drone flying above these protests, is to identify these individuals, because the administration has taken the stance that they are going to deport and revoke the visas of Islamic jihadists who are participating in pro-Hamas and pro-Palestinian activities here. I want to play some more of these clips for you because you know, it validates what you're talking about as it relates to the chance of intifada now. So let's go ahead and play the clip of Senator Schumer and then play the clips of the Hamas flags.
Senator Schumer, why are you promoting an insurrection? Senate Democrats have literally spent the last 4 years accusing President Trump and his supporters of being insurrectionists, and you're riling people up outside the White House.
Thoughts on that? Thoughts on Jewish Senator Chuck Schumer rallying and rioting with pro-Hamas activists outside of the White House while decrying an insurrection?
Yeah, I mean, I don't put anything past these people. What we're seeing right now as well with these Senate confirmations, it's a coordinated attack with the mainstream media and with these Senate Democrats. And now what we're seeing, this does look like a coordinated effort with these protests outside our nation's capital. I mean, even Schumer, there was Jeff Merkley as well, a sitting U.S. senator. They were caught standing side by side with pro-Hamas demonstrators outside the White House. And like you noted, I mean,
we have that video too. We have that video as well. Yeah. We got them all on video. So it's all crazy. And they're trying to pretend like this is a protest against Elon Musk. And like I said, if you want to have a protest against Elon Musk, then actually organize an organic protest. But this was not a protest against Elon Musk. This was an explicitly like pro-Palestinian, pro-Hamas, previously arranged protest that they just decided to show up to and co-opt with a bunch of cameras.
Well, I think the truth is starting to unravel. I mean, these people had every single opportunity to explain themselves. I believe Charles went out in the field like we just saw, and we're asking them questions to clarify in the field and in the nation's capital why they were standing among these people, openly supporting a designated terrorist organization. They're not saying anything. These people have every single opportunity to promote transparency, just like we've seen in the Trump administration in recent days, and they're doing nothing. Instead, they refuse to answer the American people. They refuse to represent the people that they're in their districts properly. I mean, no explanation, no condemnation, just silence. And to me, that speaks a ton of
Absolutely. We'll play that clip too, clip number 31 of Senator Jeff Merkley refusing to answer why he decided to rally with pro-Hamas insurrectionists. Let's go ahead and play the clip.
Senator, why are you promoting an insurrection? Thank you, Senator. Senator, do you want to speak about your insurrectionist speech and actions?
California!
Senator, don't you think it's ironic? Congressional Democrats for the last 4 years have been accusing Trump supporters of insurrectionists, but yet you're promoting an insurrection?
We have got to tell Elon Musk nobody elected Joe
Why? You guys can't block the sidewalk, excuse me. No, please don't touch me.
I'm not touching you.
I don't even know who you guys are. Please stop.
It's not like they didn't hear the question, right? They didn't hear the question. And for people that want to say that this was a protest against the defunding of USAID and Elon Musk, we're going to go and play the clip of these same protesters, right? It's dark outside because, you know, the weather changed, obviously. The sun went down. And about 10 minutes after, right? This video right here was filmed about 10 minutes after Chuck Schumer and Senator Murphy and Senator Merkley left the protest and got in their car. But it's the same people who were there. So let's go ahead and play this clip so everybody can see the terrorist propaganda themselves.
Taking the long march of returning to their homes in Gaza, to the north of Gaza. It shows that steadfastness has remained and that the world, 15 months later, is different.
Were you taking pictures? You guys are on the street, so.
Can you not take pictures here, please?
Why? I don't know. Can you stop touching me? Alright.
Now you're a smart girl. You're a smart girl, Cameron. What flag was that green flag for our viewers tonight, or people in denial on the internet about what flag that guy was waving and trying to obstruct by putting his fingers in front of the camera?
Yeah, and then the fact that he was trying to touch your reporter. I mean, these people are insane. Like the way that Charles has been harassed, I am like commend him for going in front of these people, asking the tough questions, since none of the mainstream media actually wants to do so these days and not fulfill their duty to the American public by maintaining journalistic integrity. That they've thrown that completely out the window. I mean, if these people truly opposed Hamas and their atrocities that we've seen, he would have made it clear. Instead, they've all stood there knowing full well that they're being asked a question, they're not answering it, and they know full well that the radical left no longer sees Hamas as the enemy anymore. That's how far we've gone as a country. Instead, it's a movement that they align with. That's what we've seen in recent days. Democrats have spent years telling us that January 6th was an attack on democracy. Protests near government buildings were a threat to the republic. They wanted Trump supporters jailed for simply walking into the Capitol. I'll say it once again. But now there's a Democrat senator, actually plural, Democrat senators standing with the people, waving these terrorist flags, calling for a revolution. And we're just supposed to believe this is just a peaceful demonstration? Laura,
and they're the same people.
Disgusting.
Exactly. They're the same people who are saying that we need to have another hearing for Kash Patel because they need more time to examine his extremist statements. The same people that are saying that Kash Patel is too extreme are now on a sidewalk with people waving the Hamas flag. It's on video. The media doesn't want to show you these clips. They're lying and saying that it was a protest about Doge and Elon Musk, when in reality, it was a protest to further bolster and support genocidal calls to eradicate Israel and the Jewish people and support an Islamic revolution in the West. So again, it's why it's up to independent journalists and independent political commentators like yourself to call it out. And I'm looking forward to this new era of transparency in the Trump administration. And you see that it's just exploded. I mean, every single time I open up X or I look at my phone, it's like an explosion of information, and people are becoming addicted. They're becoming addicted to using their phones and social media because it's the first time in the last 4 years. It's like a drought. It's like the first time in 4 years that these people have been able to get any truth or transparency or any kind of understanding about why the insanity that they've been witnessing over the last 4 years in our country has been taking place. And I think that we are going to be having our own revolution in this country. It's an information revolution because now we are finally able to see what has been happening, and people's eyes are being opened to the cognitive dissonance and the logical inconsistency and the lack of morality that these Senate Democrats have. I want to get your comments and your opinions on a couple more videos of these Senate Democrats because, you know, you hit the nail on your head. We have your video. We'll play your video too for our viewers so they can hear what you said about these Senate Democrats. But here's Senate Judiciary Committee Chairman, the Democrat chair, Dick Durbin, refusing to answer the same question about our national security.
Senator Durbin, do you believe slow walking Kash Patel's nomination puts the American people's safety at risk?
They say it nonstop, but when they're asked on camera, they don't want to say it. So it just makes me feel that they don't really believe that Kash Patel is a national security threat or that they need more time. Because we have traction. I mean, look, I have over 1.4 million views, right? I have my own show. Here's your opportunity, right? Here's your opportunity, Senator, to get your message out to the masses and the people. But it shows me that they don't actually really believe in the things that they're saying when they accuse President Trump and his nominees of being extremists. Your thoughts?
No, I completely agree. And that's why these people are just so hard to get respect. I mean, I have zero respect for these people. They have zero backbone. You don't see President Trump just nitpicking and handpicking only the right-wing journalists. And you don't see Caroline Leavitt doing that either. She's addressing everybody because that's what the American people deserve. They deserve that type of transparency. But these people are used to not abiding by the rules because they don't have to, because the system works to their benefit. People stalling Patel's nomination, like Dick Durbin, like we just saw, White House, the entire Senate Judiciary Committee, they basically have one goal, just to keep the FBI working for them, not the American people. They don't want an FBI that actually investigates election fraud instead of shutting down whistleblowers. They don't want an FBI that goes after real criminals instead of targeting conservatives, and holding Biden and his family accountable instead of covering for them. They want an FBI that protects these deep state bureaucrats, censoring stories that basically expose them. Of course, they're not going to answer these questions. The investigating Trump and his supporters instead of investigating actual criminals. That's why they're trying to block Kash Patel, because they know the FBI will finally stop working for them essentially in the long run. I mean, the real fear isn't a coordinated FBI with Kash Patel and Trump. It goes much, much further than that. They're used to having a system that was in for their benefit, a real fear that FBI enforces the law fairly instead of acting as a shield essentially for the Democratic Party.
That these members of the Senate Judiciary Committee, these Democrats, you're absolutely right. They're used to having the FBI shield them and protect them from any accountability whatsoever for their own corrupt and illegal actions. For example, three of the members of the Senate Judiciary Dems, Adam Schiff, Cory Booker, and Mazie Hirono. Okay, these three people are all clients of Lauren Mershon, the daughter of Judge Mershon, who is the corrupt judge who oversaw President Trump's trial in New York City. And as we know, his daughter oversees and runs and is the president of a Democrat political consulting firm that receives millions of dollars every year from high-ranking Democrats and leftist organizations. It's called Authentic Campaigns. Just between Adam Schiff, Mazie Hirono, and Cory Booker, three of the people who are on this committee who get to vote as to whether or not they get to move Kash Patel out of committee so that he can get a floor vote, collectively have sent Lauren Mershon's company over $32 million. Okay, over $32 million. So I think it's rather shocking, and I think it's rather outrageous that people who were sending millions of dollars in checks to the personal home residence, according to the FEC records, it wasn't an office address. It was the personal home residence of Judge Mershon's daughter while Trump's trial was taking place and while her consulting firm was writing email fundraising copy for these same Senate Democrats. So again, we confronted them again today. I want to get your thoughts on this because it goes to your deeper point about how the reason why they don't want these nominees to move forward is because that's the last line of defense between themselves and full exposure of their corrupt criminal enterprise. Let's go ahead and play clips number 26 and 29 back to back.
Senator Schiff, real quick, do you believe slow-walking Kash Patel's nomination as FBI director puts the American people's safety and national security at risk? Really important question about national security. You guys seem to care about that a lot, so you want to answer? Senator, are you sure you don't want to answer about slow-walking Kash Patel's nomination as FBI director and putting American safety and national security at risk? Senator Booker, do you believe slow-walking Kash Patel's nomination as FBI director puts the American people's safety and our national security at risk? You want to answer about our national security, Senator Booker?
They talk so much, right? They have nothing but negative things to say about President Trump and how he needs to go to jail, always talking on TV, always tweeting nonstop about what a threat President Trump is and what a threat Kash Patel is. But it's amazing, right? It's amazing how when you actually hold them accountable with a camera in their face, they have nothing to say.
Well, yeah. And I mean, Adam Schiff, he accused Kash Patel of lying. This is the same guy who was censured by Congress for lying. He says that Kash Patel has political vendettas. We've seen the FBI enforce these political vendettas the past 4 years, targeting their political opposition. It's disgusting. Cory Booker loves to grandstand about justice and fairness. He spent years protecting an FBI that spied on Trump's campaign, buried the Hunter Biden laptop story back in 2020 during the presidential election, ignored real criminals while persecuting conservatives like us. I mean, even worse, the same FBI that spent years chasing political enemies completely failed to act on serious national security implications like Iranian-backed terror threats. Where was that? Why didn't they put that same energy towards that? And what I'm referring to is in November of 2024, as you know, like the DOJ charged 3 men with the Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard, the IRGC, basically for plotting to assassinate Trump. I mean, like, these people aren't even actually going after real terrorists, real threats to the Americans on American soil. They're just targeting opposition. That's what we've come to. That's a banana republic. That is not the United States of America. And it's disgusting. They need to be held accountable.
Absolutely. And not only are they promoting them, but as we saw last night in those videos, they are now aligning with them and calling them their comrades and walking down the street with their Hamas flags, chanting Intifada now and Trump will learn, which, given the fact that Hamas is an Iranian proxy, and as you just stated, Iranian proxies have literally been charged and have been arrested by the FBI, right? And this only happened, right, in the aftermath of President Trump almost being assassinated. It's interesting how it only took President Trump almost having his head blown off on live television for the FBI to finally say, oh, by the way, for months now, we've been aware of an assassination threat against President Trump by Iranians and Iranian proxies. So very dangerous. And it's just further evidence that these Senate Judiciary Dems are completely unqualified to be having any say whatsoever as to whether or not Kash Patel gets, approved through committee and gets a floor vote in the Senate. Hopefully he passes with flying colors tomorrow, because we desperately need to bolster our national security, and we desperately need a competent, patriotic, America First FBI director. Closing thoughts, Cameron. I really appreciate everything that you had to say tonight, and I appreciate you speaking out about this, because with the hustle and bustle of the first 100 days and getting all the nominees confirmed and all of the executive orders and just this nonstop news cycle, it feels like a lot of people are failing to really hone in on this hypocrisy of the actions of these Senate Democrats who are literally obstructing the nomination process.
Yeah, that's why I'm really lucky. I'm the executive director of Confirm 47. And basically that's our entire job, is to make sure that we're battling against these smear campaigns that we've seen. It's a coordinated attack against the mainstream, or with the mainstream media and these Senate Democrats, in order to delay, stall, obstruct this process even further. I mean, Laura, for yourself, you've been in politics a while. You've seen President Obama during this time, he had 22 nominees already confirmed. Guess how many Trump has? I think by today we have 11. And that's just because we got Turner through today, Bondi this week. And so it's just absolutely ridiculous. I mean, they can't even defend it anymore. I mean, they are stalling this process even further, and it's weakening our national security. It has major national security implications. It's not just political theater for clickbait. It goes even further than that. China, Iran, our adversaries are all watching right now. They're laughing at us. Until we get these nominees through, we really can't enact the America First agenda and the people's mandate that they voted on November 5th. That right there is the true injustice.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you anymore. And not only are they obstructing it, but our adversaries are actively plotting insurrections outside of the White House while President Trump is meeting with our allies, right? Meeting with Netanyahu during the confirmation process, because not only are they trying to endanger American citizens, not only are they trying to sow chaos, but they are trying to disrupt and distract from the confirmation process. I think that obviously this is all political kabuki theater, but people shouldn't be mistaken for and it shouldn't be forgotten as well, that this is a deliberate and orchestrated effort. This is a coordinated movement by our adversaries. These are not just organic protests that are propping up where you have people with the same signs and Hamas flags. You cannot just buy a Hamas flag at Walmart. You cannot just buy a Hamas flag on Amazon or, at your local Target, right? So who's supplying these people with all of their terrorist propaganda? Who's supplying them with the pro-Hamas signs? We have active terror cells here in our country, in our nation's capital, and it's not going to be addressed until we get Kash Patel confirmed so that he can work in sync with Pete Hegseth and work in sync with Kristi Noem and work in sync with Tom Homan. So hopefully we get Kash Patel approved tomorrow, because as we saw on January 1st of this year, ISIS is present in our country. According to the FBI, they're present in all 50 states. We had an ISIS terrorist attack on U.S. soil, murdering people in New Orleans. We had an individual blow himself up in a Cybertruck outside of Trump Tower. The terror threat is real in this country, and it's not going to stop until we get a competent FBI director. So thank you for all of your hard work at Confirm 47, because more people need to be focused on the confirmation process and not just, all of the excitement of all of the executive orders and the news coming out of the White House every day.
No, of course, because you know this too. When I worked in the administration previously in the 45th, that was essential to having good people around you. That was kind of what we learned the first go around, right? Is making sure that you have good loyalist people around you who are going to help you implement your agenda and not go behind your back. And so Trump has formulated the unity party that we've seen. I mean, we've got Tulsi Gabbard, RFK Jr. Just got confirmed today, I believe today as well, and some others too, bringing across party lines for one reason. It's just to make sure that we're representing the American people and their views properly. This is what everybody voted for, by the way. This isn't anything new. The Senate Democrats are trying to act like, this isn't the people's mandate. It absolutely is. We wanted this sort of change within the federal government, within our intelligence agencies, when it comes to online and making sure that conservatives aren't censored and we're upholding the rule of law across our border. This is exactly what we voted for. And it's a disgrace if these people don't abide by the rule of law and making sure that we get these nominees confirmed, making sure that they're enacting and implementing the America First agenda, which is what people voted for, essentially.
Absolutely. Cameron, where can people follow you and where can people follow the work of your organization, Confirm 47? Because I think that this is an organization that deserves more attention. And as I said before, I think that because people are so excited and there's so much winning coming out of the administration, people are also kind of losing sight of how, compared to previous administrations, there is a full-blown obstructionist effort. By this time, Republicans had already helped Democrats confirm most of Joe Biden's nominees as well. And so it also is a testament to the weak leadership in our own Republican Party, in my opinion. Even though we supposedly have a mandate and we have control of the House and the Senate, it feels like we have to push so much harder than even when Democrats are not in the majority. And so it doesn't really make any sense as to why Joe Biden was able to get all of his nominees confirmed mostly within the first 50 days and why President Trump's nominees, despite this massive blowout election, are being stalled. So perhaps people need to start calling their Republican senators too and telling John Thune to get a little bit more aggressive, because we can't be allowing for this hypocrisy. I think that if the Democrats are going to have press conferences with Hamas and they're going to have press conferences where they're all getting together and crying about the defunding of these organizations, it's time for Republicans to start having their own press conferences on Capitol Hill with each other to expose this obstructionist effort to undermine our national security.
I completely agree with these Senate Republicans too. We can't have these weak-kneed Republicans. Like I say this to all my friends and to anybody who asks me, but I'm just like, at this point, we have everything as conservatives. We have the executive branch, we have the legislative branch. Like, if we can't get things done, it's on us. Like, it shows a true inefficiency. Like, we have to stay true to our beliefs, really, really make sure that we're focusing on these GOP senators. I'm watching very closely. I mean, we've seen Susan Collins have a change of heart with Tulsi Gabbard. She got through committee, but we also saw Jerry Morin press her very, very hard. I mean, there's some others as well. It's absurd. I understand, to ask tough questions. I was a journalist. I was a White House correspondent. I was in the press briefing room with Jen Psaki. I know what it is to ask these tough questions. I get it. I mean, that's just for the will of the people, so they get full transparency as to who this nominee really is. But at the same time, you can't not enact the people's mandate. They voted for this on November 5th. They voted in President Trump. They trust President Trump with his picks, and they need to move forward with that. They need to respect that. If they don't, they're siding with the deep state operatives that spent years undermining him. And I said that in a video. I'll say it again. It's completely unacceptable behavior. To me, it's just a lack of an efficiency on all sides. The fact that this has gone on for as long as it has without getting these people through. If we can do this a couple years back, President Obama had 22 people through. You also confirmed Lloyd Austin, who was in charge of the just complete terrible Afghanistan withdrawal, leaving our men and women, some men and women dead.
Yeah, one of the first approved. one of the
Yes.
first approved. Yeah.
You're gonna approve him, but we're gonna have this whole media debacle about why Pete Hegseth isn't qualified when he had 2 Bronze Stars and he's a combat vet. Like, give me a break. Like, these people, it's actually insane to me. But if they want to look at the confirmation process a little bit more in depth, we do post a lot of the updates on there, just so, because I know not everybody can watch C-SPAN all day, so we'll post the clips on there.
Yeah, they're not all neurotic like we are, right? They're not all neurotic addicts.
Yeah, so they can follow. It's a confirmed 47 on Twitter and on Truth, but on Instagram it's 47 confirmed, just flipped, and then across all platforms I'm at Cameron Bailey.
Great. Well, Cameron, thanks so much for coming on my program tonight. I really appreciate it. And anytime you want to come on my program to share updates about the confirmation process or any obstructionist efforts, you can do so, because we fully support President Trump's America First agenda here on Loomer Unleashed. And we're looking for people who actually have the courage to say the things that need to be said in our country, because I think it's outrageous that we have this mandate and it's taking so long. I mean, it's almost like the Republicans don't know how to use their power when they have it. And we can't just depend on President Trump to do everything. It's time for the Senate Republicans and the House Republicans to move this process along, because it is slower. I mean, if we compare the nominations, as we just said, we compare these nominations, they are much slower than the nomination process and the confirmation process under both Obama and Joe Biden.
Yeah, and just also, I tell everybody too, just follow the money. I mean, the people who are pushing back against these nominees, see who their donors are. See who are cashing these checks. I mean, they're not protecting the people that voted them in. They're protecting their donor class. I mean, you saw this with RFK Jr., with all the people who were pushing back against him were bought out by Big Pharma. And I know you know this. One of your reporters, I believe Charles, was confronting Elizabeth Warren about this as well. She was funded, I believe, $5.2 million by Big Pharma. And then she wants to say that she's not. That's why she's pressing RFK Jr. so hard.
Yeah, since you mentioned it, we might as well just play it. Yeah. I mean, now that you mentioned it, let's just go ahead and play that video, because you're absolutely right. We've been tracking these confirmation hearings all week. And look, not everybody has time to, wake up early, and everybody has jobs. Everybody, your everyday American they're not able to watch the news and watch 7 hours of confirmation hearings like we are. It's my job to do so, and so I do it. But we've been waking up every single morning bright and early, and we've been running an extensive tracking operation of all of these senators who are participating in these hearings. And, for the RFK hearing, we've been confronting senators like Elizabeth Warren on the Finance Committee, which is the committee overseeing the confirmation hearing for RFK Jr. And she asked him point blank, during his confirmation hearing, if he would agree not to sue the pharmaceutical companies. And he said, "Are you asking me to not sue?" And she's like, "Yes, I'm asking you to not sue." And he said, "No, I'm not going to commit to not suing these companies." Come to find out, just since 2020 alone, she has received over $5.2 million, and she lied about it too. So here's the video. And then after we play the video, we will expose the lie here on Loomer Unleashed, because this is a story I broke moments before going live tonight. But let's play this clip. This was yesterday.
Senator Warren, is your acceptance of $5.2 million from Big Pharma since 2020 the reason why you don't want RFK Jr. suing Big Pharma? Is that why?
Check my website. I don't take contributions from Big Pharma executives. I don't take any corporate PAC money. And you and your allies already know that.
Thank you.
So it's really funny because, I ask these questions. The way it works is, Charles lives in DC. I live in Florida. And so I write the questions, right? And we spend a lot of time looking at what these people say. I write the questions, and then I'm like, Charles, go ask this senator this question. So I was looking at Twitter, and I noticed that Nancy Mace, Congresswoman Mace, had posted the financial receipts that show that Elizabeth Warren has accepted $5.2 million since 2020 alone from pharmaceutical executives. And we decided to ask her the question. And then you see in her answer, she was very specific in the wording, right? She said, we're going to get this pulled up on the screen too so you can see. She said, oh, I don't take money from pharma executives. That's what she said. I don't take contributions, quote, from big pharma executives, end quote. And then a new quote, I don't take any corporate PAC money and you and your allies already know that, end quote. Well, that's a lie because we were looking at our FEC records tonight and you can scroll down and this is the post I posted. You can see those FEC records. And the post said, FEC records show Democrat Senator Elizabeth Warren took money from the Sackler family, who Ken Paxton, who of course is the AG of Texas, sued for playing a role in the opioid epidemic. That's his direct quote. So you can go back to that tweet. Before she died, Beverly Sackler donated to Elizabeth for MA Inc., which is a political campaign committee tied to Elizabeth Warren. The New York Times obituary for Beverly Sackler read that Miss Sackler was the matriarch of the company whose drug, OxyContin, has been blamed for the opioid epidemic. Elizabeth Sackler, who also donated to Elizabeth for MA Inc., listed the Sackler Family Foundation as her employment. Okay, you can see it all here. We provide the receipts here. Unlike the fake news media like Politico that's subsidized by USAID, we are not subsidized by USAID here. Loomer Unleashed is not state propaganda. Yesterday, Elizabeth Warren lied to Loomer Unleashed, as you just saw in that clip there, Cameron, when she told us on video, quote, I don't take contributions from big pharma executives. Sadly, Senate Democrats are lying in an attempt to obstruct the confirmation of President Trump's nominees. So again, she's out of her own personal interest because she's backed by big pharma, as you just said. These senators are only asking these questions and stalling to protect their own money. We're going to find out in the coming days how many of them were getting a slush fund from USAID and all this laundered money that is now funding all these leftist organizations and paying political leftist operatives salaries of $500,000 to $1 million a year. And you see what a liar this woman is. I mean, the video itself got over 10 million views yesterday because so many people were like ripping it and sharing it on different platforms. But again, it's just like so unbelievable. And I know that we were closing out and then we would be here literally all night long if we could go through every single example. Like, it's crazy, you know, like we're about to close the interview out, but there's just so many corrupt Democrats on these committees who need to be exposed. And it's just completely unbelievable to me that they actually get to have a say and a vote in deciding the future of these nominees when they are so corrupt. And the receipts prove it, as we just showed.
And then they're gonna ask questions on good moral authority. It's like, okay, well, Senator Ron Wyden took 1.4 million. You've got Bernie Sanders. You've got you have Elizabeth Warren, 5.2 million. But are we really shocked she lied, Laura? I mean, she also lied about being a Native American. This is the same woman who lied to Pocahontas about her heritage. Okay, so now she's gonna lie to the American people once again in Stonewall instead of actually, approaching that question with honesty and integrity. But these people have none. So what did we really expect?
Absolutely. So I guess it's just shocking to me that where's the media, right? Like, why does it take Loomer Unleashed chasing these people in the halls of Congress and Senate with our cell phone cameras to ask them the questions that the media should be asking them? It's just shocking. But Cameron, thanks so much for coming on tonight. I really appreciate it.
No, thank you so much for having me. Let's do this again soon. It was fun.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Unreal, you guys. Just unreal corruption and just totally out of control, right? You know, Elizabeth Warren is on the banking committee. She's on the banking committee. And it's funny because they actually had a hearing today on debanking. So you have a woman who's willing to just lie to your face, right? Lie about her contributions, lie about being Native American, actively participating in the debanking of U.S. citizens. Out of control. Speaking of banking, though, what happens to your money in the bank when the BRIC nations continue their economic warfare against America and start dumping their U.S. treasuries in retaliation to the Trump administration tariffs? Are your bank assets truly safe? Did you know that FDIC only has about 1.2% of all deposits insured? It doesn't take much for a bank run significantly worse than what we saw after Silicon Valley Bank, Signature Bank, and First Republic failed. You need to get out of the system with the world's safest assets, silver and gold. Let the buyer beware, though, that there are a lot of garbage companies out there that will sell you high-priced collectible silver and gold, but do not fall for it. I've decided to partner with Kirk Elliott Precious Metals, as Dr. Kirk cares about you. He's trustworthy, honest, and he also educates you, and he takes the time to speak with you before you make a purchase to make sure that it's the right decision for you. He only deals with low-cost bullion that doesn't carry high premiums. And what I love is that physical metals can also be placed in your IRA. So call Dr. Kirk Elliott today at 720-605-3900 or schedule a call online today at kepm.com/Loomer. That's kepm.com/Loomer. Again, the number is 720-605-3900 or visit kepm.com/Loomer. Speak to Dr. Kirk Elliott today and let him know that Laura Loomer sent you. Wow, we have so many videos. We have so many videos of these Senate Democrats just running away and refusing to answer questions. And joining me now to, joining me soon, it's getting lined up now, Charles Downs. He's been very busy. He's doing great work. You know, he's the best. Charles has been confronting these Senate Democrats all week long, and whether it's in the halls of Congress before these Senate confirmation hearings, as we saw, or whether it's these Palestinian protests, there's so much action going on right now on Capitol Hill in an effort to completely obstruct President Trump's agenda and to protest and create absolute chaos while President Trump and his nominees are trying to rein in the chaos of the last 4 years in our country and restore order and restore peace and restore common sense policy to the swamp, something that these people are absolutely rabid about. I mean, we saw today, right, in the aftermath of President Trump's administration closing USAID and cutting off all the funding and blocking these people from entering their offices, how rabid the Democrats became. Charles Downs, who is our Loomer Unleashed DC contributor, joins me now to discuss his experience on Capitol Hill this week, confronting these Senate Democrats last night at the pro-Palestinian, pro-Hamas riots outside of the White House, and then again today outside of the United States Capitol, where federal employees who are, supposed to be working. I don't know about you, but I can't just take time off work and go protest and do whatever the hell I want to do, right? I have to actually work. Just like all of you, protesting the closure of USA. We have it all on video because we seem to be one of the only media publications that actually bothers to be documenting this obstructionist effort. So joining me now is Charles Downs. Charles, thank you so much for joining me tonight. You've had quite the week. You really have had quite the week up on Capitol Hill. I'd say we have had quite the week up on Capitol Hill because it's been nonstop. Creating content, writing questions for senators, and documenting these insurrectionist activities. I mean, the Democrats have accused Republicans and Trump supporters for the last 4 years of being violent criminals, insurrectionists, trying to lock January 6 protesters up, trying to prevent President Trump from becoming president by accusing him of being an insurrectionist, trying to throw him in jail for the rest of his life in an effort to get him off the ballot. What are your thoughts, Charles, on this week? Looking back over the last 72 hours of pure chaos on Capitol Hill.
Well, Laura, it's been amazing. It's so interesting. So during the election, a lot of my apolitical friends, I grew up in Ohio, and obviously it's like a swing state. I have a lot of friends in Pennsylvania, but some of them like politics, some of them don't. And a lot of them who didn't like politics but voted for Trump were texting me like, hey, did it Senate Democrats and Kamala Harris really hate me that much? Now it's crazy. I'm getting text messages left and right from the same people saying, hey, you are right. These elected Democrats don't give two shits about me. Because look at their behavior, like we said. Today, a bunch of federal employees just skipped work to go to Capitol Hill to protest and scream, threaten President Trump, threaten Trump administration officials. And we shared the video today. I was live reporting, and I was like, wow, it's so sad that these people have nothing else to do. And some federal employees started talking smack to me. So I turned the camera around, and I'm like, hey, look at these federal employees talking smack. You guys should get back to work. You know, we're the only media outlet that says things like that right to these people's faces, live on X. But it's just remarkable because, like I said, the Senate Democrats don't care about your safety. They don't care about your well-being. And all they want to do is spend your tax dollars on foreign aid for DEI, spend it on DEI, and obstruct President Trump's nominees. They don't care about you. And this week is really, really waking people up to that fact.
Absolutely. You were very brave last night to wander inside of those pro-Hamas riots outside of the White House. You were physically assaulted. You had Hamas flags shoved inside your face, people putting their fingers inside your camera. I'm going to go ahead and play a couple of the clips from last night so people can see what happened when you attempted to cover and expose these violent protests, an actual insurrectionist mob incited by Senate Democrats like Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer himself outside of the White House. I thought that we were not allowed to protest outside of our federal government buildings anymore. What happened to these things being sacred institutions? I thought that it was a sacred institution. I thought that we were not allowed to scale the fence of our federal institutions. Charles, what happened?
As long as you're doing it to quote unquote get Trump, threaten Trump, elected Democrats don't care. As long as you're trying to get Trump, you can do whatever you want in Chuck Schumer's eyes. And that's the most disgusting part. And I think that's really waking the American people up to like what I've been saying. These elected Democrats don't care about you. They don't care about your safety. And they will incite the most crazy people to come after you if you stand in their way of their money. Like Kash Patel says, these people are literally government gangsters. I think is it like a book or documentary?
His book is called Government Gangsters. And we know that well because Senator Dick Durbin, our buddy Dick Durbin, went out of his way to actually show a life-size poster. He brought a life-size poster of me to Kash Patel's hearing in the Senate Judiciary Committee. We have a photo of that. I'm sure we could pull that up. Of me and Kash Patel standing next to each other at a Villagers for Trump event doing a book swap. Because I helped organize a speaking event for him and a book signing for him when he came to speak in the Villages where I ran for Congress and where I'm on the board of Villagers for Trump. So again, they really are government gangsters. And that's why they don't want Kash Patel, of all people, becoming the next FBI director because, well, he wrote a book about it. He wrote a book about these gangsters. So let's go out and play these clips because we have a lot of them and it's going to take a while to get through them. And then we'll show the photo of the life-size poster because it's one of my new favorite photos. So here's the photo. Well, here's the video footage of you last night. I'm just going to play the clips back to back until we encounter the clip of you getting physically assaulted by a Hamas flag waving individual. back to that photo. Go back to that photo, Cannon, because I want people to see that. So we're going to rewind that in real time so people can see that flag. The flag, yeah, rewind it just a little bit more. And I want people to pay attention a little bit more right there. Everybody can hear me. So pay attention if you're watching this, okay? Look at the headband of the person on the flag. Just pay very close attention to that flag. Go ahead and play the clip. You got to pause it when I say pause it. I know, but you got to pause it back so people can see it because I want them to see it. I want them to see the bandana. Go back again so that people can see it. Yeah, play that again. Because the media is denying this happened. Yeah, right there. And I want people to pay attention and look at this because the media is gaslighting you. They want you to think that this is not happening. They want you to think that people are just waving a Palestinian flag and that the Palestinian flag is not the Hamas flag. So let's play this one last time because the media needs to see this despite all of their lies. So Charles, you know, I saw a lot of people yesterday when we were playing these clips say, that's not a Hamas flag. That's not a Hamas flag. That's a Palestinian flag. That's a Palestinian flag. And it's like, it's right in front of your face. These people are waving flags of Hamas fighters. I mean, everybody can see if they zoom in like we just did live on air, that is a Hamas bandana. You can rewind the clip yourself and there's no missing it, right? I pointed it out for everybody to see it, right? And this wasn't the only Hamas flag. This wasn't the only Hamas bandana that was seen at this protest outside of the White House where President Trump was inside with Bibi Netanyahu. And just 10 minutes before that video was filmed, right? Because the sun went down and it got dark. Senator Chuck Schumer was getting in his car right where that sidewalk is. So in that same clip. So these Senate Democrats were speaking at the same protest where they were waving Hamas flags. Let's go ahead and play the rest of the clip because they're chanting things about Intifada and how Bibi and Trump would learn. But I wanted everybody to see that in real time because you don't see this anywhere on the media. It should be a front page story everywhere that Senate Democrats spoke at a pro-Hamas rally where they were waving Hamas flags and Hamas bandanas outside of the White House.
That's crazy.
Shut it down! No Zionism in this town! No Zionism in this town! Shut it down! Shut it down! No Zionism in this town! No Zionism welcome here! Zionism welcome here! Say it loud and say it clear! Say it clear! We want healthcare, food, and housing! We want healthcare, food, and housing!
You guys are on the street, so...
Can you not take pictures here, please?
Oh, why? I don't know. Can you stop touching me? Alright.
So again, everybody could see that individual was blocking your phone because he saw that you realized that there was a Hamas flag that they were waving and they didn't want people getting it on camera because they're trying to gaslight people into saying that the Palestinian movement isn't a pro-Hamas movement. The Palestinian movement is a peaceful movement. They're not for Hamas. They don't support terrorists. And they do. And they become very violent and aggressive, physically invading your space, physically assaulting you, touching your personal property when you try to expose this. I want to go to the chat right now while we're continuing this conversation because I know that this can be quite shocking for people to see. And I want to get people's comments. And again, if you're watching live or you're just joining now, be sure that you retweet this stream. We're live on X or we're live on Rumble, rumble.com/Laura Loomer. You can rewind the live stream too if you are in utter disbelief and you need to see that image again for yourself to see that that was really a Hamas flag and a Hamas bandana. Let's scroll up and see what people are saying. Yeah, people are saying, wow, that's crazy. We pointed it out on Laura's Space. Someone said they didn't see it, but, well, if you go back, you can see it. It's very, 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 very obvious. Let's go ahead and play it again, Cannon, because there's people that didn't see it because we kept rewinding the clip. There's two clips. There's one clip of a flag with a Palestinian fighter, a Hamas fighter, wearing a Hamas bandana. And then there's another clip of a person wearing a mask, waving a Hamas flag, trying to touch Charles in his camera. So we'll play them again at the specific points. We'll play the one where they're trying to touch Charles, and I'll try to pause it. Right, you have to be watching it live and pay close attention to the design, because if you're looking at the design of the flag, you'll quickly see that it's a Hamas flag. Let's play this one more time for people in the comments who said they want to see it again.
Were you taking pictures? You guys are on the street, so.
Can you not take pictures here, please?
Why? I don't know. Can you stop touching me? All right.
So again, there's some people who say, how can you not see it? You see it, people see it, it's there. You see the flag that's bright green, that has the white text on it. If you don't know what a Hamas flag looks like, you can go look it up online and then you can watch the video again. But that's the Hamas flag. And it was just so funny, Charles, because I know last night when we were posting these videos, there were people like with Kamala Harris in their bio on X, people who said that they voted for Kamala, saying that that was just the Palestinian flag. So maybe they're just admitting, maybe they're finally admitting that the Palestinian cause is the Hamas cause. And this is why President Trump is now talking about how the U.S. needs to have ownership of Gaza. Look, I personally don't want to have troops on the ground in Gaza. I don't really want to have any more troops in the Middle East. I don't think it's America first. But if President Trump is able to actually negotiate an America first resolution where we're not paying for all this aid for Palestinians anymore, and he already cut that off during his first administration. I was, of course, re-implemented under Joe Biden. But if he's able to implement an America first approach to dealing with Gaza, by getting these other Middle Eastern nations to rebuild Gaza, not on U.S. dime, but on their dime, to then, again, for a part-time basis, rehabilitate these Palestinians in Jordan and Egypt, as was discussed today in the White House press briefing room and last night during this shocking press conference by President Trump when he said the U.S. was going to literally own Gaza, like own it as in property, okay, like real estate. Then it could be a solution if he's able to get people to pay for it, right? Like his policy of getting Mexico to pay for the wall. What are your thoughts on this? Because I know that last night when they were listening to this on the loudspeaker, they decided to get very violent and erratic as soon as they heard President Trump say that he was going to own Gaza.
Yeah, Laura, it's so interesting. I agree. We can do it like what you said. We should do that. That's smart policy. And what I found very interesting is, I guess going back to the government gangsters reference, think of the elected Democrats as basically the boss. Then we got the federal employees, or what I like to call the unelected bureaucrats. Those are the captains. And then the Antifa and Hamas protesters. Those are like the street fighters. But what I found so interesting is Chris Murphy. We confronted him last night too. This loser senator from Connecticut. We confronted him, asked the same question as we asked Schumer. He ran away like a coward. But right after Chris Murphy left his little incitement rally, he posted to X that America will never own Gaza. So these Senate Democrats knew exactly what they were doing. They were literally inciting and riling up the crowd outside the White House, even after they spoke. They were begging something to happen. And the similarities between what's going on now and the 2020 Antifa BLM riots is so similar. Y'all remember the media were like, Those are mostly peaceful protests. Antifa's a myth. There's no such thing as Antifa. I'm sure we'll show this video soon. But the Oregon senator, he was also with Senator Schumer at the rally. And after we confronted him, some people who looked like Antifa literally stopped us, blocked our phone, were hitting our phone.
Yeah, we played those videos
really
on the previous interview with Cameron, but we'll go ahead and play them again because they are relevant. And it's true. They knew exactly what they were doing because they coordinated their messaging. They said that this was going to be a protest against Elon Musk. And look, as I've said, I've been critical about Elon Musk on my show before. Everybody knows that he literally, took away my monetization and my check mark for almost a month and a half as of, only a few days ago because I was criticizing him and some of these appointees in the Trump administration, the technocrats, as I call them. And so if you want to have a protest about Elon Musk and Doge and USAID, which, look, there's plenty of things to be critical of, but personally, I'm in support of the actions being taken to defund USAID because this is a money laundering operation and an abuse of our taxpayer dollars. But if you really genuinely, let's just entertain their idea that they really do want to have a protest against Elon Musk, right? Then why didn't you organize your own organic protest somewhere else? Why did you co-opt the already existing Arrest Netanyahu protest that was scheduled to take place in the same location outside of the White House at the same exact time with all of these Palestinians and jihadists? I mean, obviously you're not going to get, as President Trump would say, the leader of your local bank to be leading the protests in support of the Palestinians. We all know the type of person that shows up to a free Palestine rally. They're not exactly peaceful people. They are oftentimes non-citizens. They are oftentimes supporters, most times actually, supporters of terrorism. And they have very anti-American viewpoints too. And so it's important that we keep on playing these clips to remind people that the Democrats coordinated their messaging to capitalize off of the unhinged anger and the violent nature of the people who tend to be attracted to pro-Hamas rallies in support of Palestinian people. We'll go ahead and play these two clips. We'll just play three of them back to back. We'll play the Schumer clip. We'll play the Merkley clip first. We'll play the Chris Murphy clip next, and we'll play the Schumer clip because people need to understand that this is psychological warfare, right? This idea that they're going to convince people that all these people showed up, all these people here showed up to protest what's happening inside the Treasury, what's happening inside USAID, okay? They didn't show up to protest that. They showed up to protest Israel, and they showed up to protest in support of Hamas. And the Democrats just put a press stand and a few cameras in front of it and pretended like it was an organic protest. Let's go ahead and play these clips.
Senator, why are you promoting an insurrection? Thank you, Senator. Senator, do you want to speak about your insurrectionist speech and actions?
California!
Senator, don't you think it's ironic congressional Democrats for the last 4 years have been accusing Trump supporters of insurrectionists, but yet you're promoting an insurrection?
We have got to tell Elon Musk nobody elected Joe
Why? You guys can't block the sidewalk, excuse me. No, please don't touch me.
I'm not touching you.
I don't even know who you guys are. Please stop. Senator, why are you promoting an insurrection? Don't you think it's ironic? Don't you think it's ironic that Senate Democrats have been calling Trump supporters insurrectionists for the last 4 years, yet you're literally riling up a crowd outside the White House? Do you find that ironic, Senator?
Maybe you should be standing in front of Elon Musk's way.
Action. Senator Schumer, why are you promoting an insurrection? Senate Democrats have literally spent the last 4 years accusing President Trump and his supporters of being insurrectionists, and you're riling people up outside the White House.
So, of course, they don't answer the questions. They never do. And they just They can't accuse President Trump of promoting an insurrection when they themselves are standing next to violent Palestinian radicals. We're going to take a quick break and thank the sponsor of today's episode of Loomer Unleashed before we get back to our interview with Charles. Grassy. Sip on the power of nature with Grassy, the organic wellness water that does more than just hydrate. This small business was founded on a mission to keep jobs here at home in America, especially in rural communities. Grassy is committed to investing in American manufacturing instead of sending production overseas. Made and sourced in the United States, each bottle of Grassy is packed with detoxifying barley grass juice powder, plus 100% of your daily vitamins C, D, and zinc. It's pretty incredible. I got the flu or some kind of like a sinus infection. I felt sick when I came back from the inauguration because I was out in the cold. And what did I do? I drank some of the Grassy that I have in my fridge. I have bottles and bottles and bottles of this in my fridge. And it does exactly what it says it's going to do, you guys. It boosts your wellness and it gives you the vitamins that you need. A lot of times I go get those vitamin shots or those vitamin IV bags. But lately I feel like I don't need to do it on a weekly basis like I used to because I'm drinking Grassy, which gives me my daily dose of vitamin C, D, and zinc. It's clean energy. It's an immune boost and it has everything that you need. It's USDA certified, organic, plant-based, vegan, and low in sugar, making it perfect for athletes, families, and anybody who wants to stay healthy on the go. So head on over to grassy.com, that's GRAASI.com, and use code LAURA20. That's LAURA 20, and you can save 20% off on your entire purchase today when you order from Grassy. When you sip on Grassy, you're not just nourishing yourself, you're also helping support American workers and local communities across our country. And if there's one thing that you know about me, I will always stand with American workers and American businesses. So go support this great American company that is supporting local communities and American workers all across our country, boosting your overall wellness and providing you with immune support, giving you your daily dose of vitamin C, D, and zinc. Grassy.com, code Laura20. All right, Charles, we got to get you some Grassy. You know, we're sending you all over every single day. You're up early. You're confronting the Senate Democrats, and then in the evening you're hanging out with Hamas jihadis. We got to get you some Grassy so you don't get sick. You got sick too. Remember, you got sick in DC.
Yeah, a little insider information. I got the flu for the last 2 weeks. It's been brutal, but it's been, like I said, you just gotta keep going. So yeah, maybe I should check that out.
I think you should. It helps. That's what I was drinking when I got sick after the inauguration. Everybody I know got sick after inauguration, though, because we were all outside. Like literally everyone. Everybody I know is getting over it. And it lasted for like 2 weeks because I know people who are still telling me that they're still sick. But I mean, it's only been like 4 days and I'm starting to feel better.
It's actually like funny, but it's not. If you like last week and the week before, just walking around the Senate hallways, you just heard like coughing all up and down, like the whole Congress, I think, got sick. So yeah, pretty nasty.
It was freezing. It was, and everybody was outside. It wasn't exactly the best weather to be standing outside for hours. And as everybody knows, you know, the inauguration was moved inside, and as a result of that, all the people who came to DC who had tickets were kind of confused and waiting outside in these long lines trying to get inside a limited capacity auditorium. So a lot of people got sick from being out in the cold, including Charles and I. I want to get your comments on these videos because
there's a lot there.
I think it's crazy how they say so much during their press conferences, right? I mean, they're now talking about us too. I mean, some of these Senate Democrats are even saying, I mean, I saw Jamie Raskin saying, go ask Steve Bannon and Laura Loomer. And as I said before, there are legitimate reasons to be critical of technocrats and critical of some of the big tech advisors in the Trump administration. But I want to make something very clear. While I oppose technocracy and while I oppose censorship and while I oppose, you know, CCP infiltration and while I oppose this concept of eradicating our democracy and re-implementing technocracy, and I oppose billionaires being able to, you know, influence our elections, I fully support President Trump's agenda, right? And you will never, no matter how critical I am of any big tech executive, no matter how critical I am of technocracy, no matter how critical I am, and trust me, I am very critical of the billionaire tech class that is now inside the Trump administration. I've been very outspoken about it. But no matter how outspoken I am and no matter how critical I am, you will never see me, unless I'm reporting on it, standing hand in hand with Palestinian Hamas jihadis as a way to protest the Trump administration agenda, right? There's ways to be critical without inciting a riot and without inciting a violent mob. And so I just don't really understand the messaging of the Democrats. I don't know. I guess I'm confused because I understand what is happening. I understand that some of them are trying to have a bridge across the aisle because they see conservatives like myself speaking out against technocracy, and everybody got to see this very public fight between me and Elon Musk. They saw I got demonetized. They saw that I, was censored online and shadow banned because I criticized him and some of these tech appointees in the Trump administration. But again, ultimately, I'm not out to destroy the Trump administration just because I'm critical of some of the people in his administration and some of their own conflicts. So I just think there needs to be like this understanding that we're all coming at this from different perspectives and different viewpoints. The left is approaching this because they, at the premise of their argument, they don't like Donald Trump. They don't like President Trump. And so they view Elon Musk as a vehicle to attack President Trump's administration. I, on the other hand, love President Trump, but I am 100% opposed to big tech election interference. I am 100% opposed to technocracy, and I am 100% opposed to censorship. And I'm also opposed to the H-1B visa program, which is something that a lot of these big tech executives and people who are now in the administration support. They support this, right? And so there are ideological clashes between some of the MAGA base and the tech advisors. Now, I can be critical of their positions on immigration as I am, while also saying the actions of defunding USAID, in my opinion, are good. Do I have concerns about individuals who may not have security clearances, right, in the form of young teenagers having access to government databases? I have questions. However, it appears that the Trump administration answered these questions and concerns today during the press briefing when they said that the people who are going through this line item of code in Doge, these teenage coders who are working with Elon Musk, they do not apparently have the ability to actually change the code. They just have the ability to view it and review it and see it. And so we just have to be intellectually honest here, right? If we're going to oppose technocracy and we're going to have criticisms of big tech and we're going to have criticisms of big tech billionaires in our election system, then focus on the issue, right? Don't try to conflate it and make it something about Trump himself being a dictator or Trump himself trying to erode our democracy. And so I think that's where the messages are being mixed up and where the messages are being kind of distorted, because I do think that there is common ground on the left and the right between the populists on the left, right? There are populists, many crossover people who supported Bernie Sanders. They themselves saw the influence of big tech in elections. They themselves saw the influence of the billionaire class in elections. And that's why there's a lot of crossover between these leftist populists, like the types of people that support a Bernie Sanders, and the populists in MAGA who obviously supported and voted for President Trump. Because there are issues where we have crossover on protecting workers' rights, right? Protecting the workers' rights of American citizens, protecting free speech, not allowing for our elections to be bought and paid for, and for the donor class to have an overreaching influence in our elections. And so people need to focus on those issues as opposed to making every single point of contention revolve around Orange Man bad. I want to get your opinion on this. And well, first, let's go ahead and play this clip of Jamie Raskin first so people understand what I'm talking about, because I've been
Oh, this
asked
is
to
great.
comment. I've been asked to comment on this, and there's been articles written about it, and people asking me what I think about this. And I'll be completely honest. I mean, I will say that there are legitimate concerns that people on the left and the right have of technocracy that I think should be addressed. But I do not support the premise that President Trump is a dictator who is trying to erode our rights and he's trying to be an authoritarian. I'm not going to participate in anti-Trump propaganda. And so if people want to have a conversation about the issues at hand, like big tech interference in our elections, and like the billionaire donor class, campaign finance reform, things of that nature, then let's focus on the issues. But I'm not going to participate in Trump bashing. I can be critical of Trump administration officials without bashing President Trump. So we'll go ahead and play this clip.
What I see are all the telltale signs of a coup. A coup is a seizure of state power by unelected actors who work to take over the critical infrastructure of government outside of the rule of law. And that's what I see as going on right now. I mean, Elon Musk has basically tried to take control of the country's communications infrastructure, the governmental financial payments infrastructure, the data infrastructure, and he's got important parts of nodes of the military infrastructure. So I'm looking right through Donald Trump, who no doubt wants to abuse everybody's civil rights and civil liberties and centralize all the power in him. But at this point, I'm with Steve Bannon and Laura Loomer and the people on the right who are saying, watch Elon Musk because he's the guy who's trying to centralize all power behind him, and he hasn't been elected to anything.
Now, it is true that Elon Musk is not an elected official. It is true, right? There are, like I said before, there are statements that have been made, some accurate, some inaccurate. And so, again, I'm not going to entertain this idea that Donald Trump wants to erode the civil liberties and the civil rights of American citizens. I reject that premise and I reject that claim because I don't believe that for 1 second. I support President Trump. Do I think that there are individuals in the billionaire tech class, right? Like we've seen the Mark Zuckerbergs, we've seen the Sundar Pichais of Google, we've seen Jeff Bezos, right? We have seen even the actions of Elon Musk, right? I mean, he restored my account and I'm grateful, but we can't forget the censorship that took place regardless of the fact that the account was restored. So there are legitimate gripes that people on both sides of the aisle have about big tech billionaires and the influence that they have on our elections process. But again, the message itself is getting lost in all of the Trump hatred. And so we're never going to be able to have a bipartisan approach to addressing big tech interference in our elections or, campaign finance reform or H-1B visa reform, protecting American rights, if every single time the conversation is broached, that it begins with a statement attacking President Trump as some kind of dictator or some kind of monster who wants to undermine people's rights, right? And so that's where
and what's interesting,
it becomes a non-starter, right? That's where you have to remove yourself, even if there are some agreements on some claims, right? It's just, I cannot participate in rhetoric that is promoting Hamas terrorists. I cannot participate in rhetoric that is bashing President Trump as a monster. My message is refined and it's focused on technocracy. And so I just want people to understand where I'm coming from, because I really do believe that technocracy is a huge threat to humanity, and it's a huge threat to our government, and it's a huge threat to our elections process and the integrity of our constitutional republic. But you are not going to see me engage in Trump hatred or Trump bashing to get my message across, no matter how critical I am of the big tech executives. And so my message to the Democrats would be that if you are going to criticize technocracy and you're trying to appeal to the right or just independents or anybody in the middle, you have to stop making your message so toxic by dominating the message with orange man bad rhetoric, right? It's got to be focused on policy, because whether people like it or not, Donald Trump is president. I'm happy about it, right? Obviously, Jamie Raskin is not happy about it. Am I happy about everybody who's serving in the Trump administration? No. Am I happy about everything that is every single decision that has been made thus far by the transition team? No. I made my opinions very clear when I voiced my opinions on Christmas about the appointment of Siram Kirshnan, who is now working under David Sachs as the AI czar, and Siram Kirshnan is working in that AI department with David Sachs, the new crypto and AI czar. And I was punished for making my opinion heard. I was punished for it. And it became an international news story. So we don't all have to agree on every issue, but there's a way to approach issues without the messaging being unhinged. And I think that over the last 8 years in our country, people have allowed their hatred of President Trump to cloud their judgment to the point where they're not able to approach things from a true bipartisan effort focused solely on policy, because they want every single comment or every single action they take to be littered with anti-Trump propaganda.
Yeah, and what I find really interesting is after Jamie Raskin made those comments, he went on to say he would start impeachment against President Trump right now if someone can find him 2 Republicans, which is that's the majority Republicans currently have in the House. So he's moving towards that. And then going back to the Elon Musk protest, which actually turned out to be a Hamas rally, what I found interesting is after we confronted the Oregon senator, those people who were blocking us, I don't know, Rose City Antifa, they're pretty dangerous. Isn't it kind of weird how some Antifa-looking individuals automatically pounced to defend the senator from Oregon, and Portland's in Oregon? So there's a lot of questions with that. And sadly, that's, what you're saying. The Democrats don't really care about the issue. They're just throwing everything together. I saw a bunch of open border signs last night too. So they're just throwing all the issues. At today's rally, it was kind of the same thing. We got a bunch of pictures of the Palestinian flag. So they had the Free Palestine people there. The Code Pink leader was there and all her people. And then it was like federal employees and trans people, like people that are waving trans flags. So it's just like what we've been saying, what the left does. Hey, support the thing. Support the thing. They're just going to throw as many issues together. And of course, we saw signs today at today's quote unquote protest that said, Trump is killing black and brown kids. All right. So they're going back to their BLM Antifa rhetoric. They're throwing in the Hamas rhetoric, throwing in the Hamas supporters who are really violent and dangerous. And they're combining with what I personally believe is Antifa. Because if you look at that footage again, one of the, esteemed women, fine-looking woman, being sarcastic, who was blocking me was wearing a pink bicycle helmet. Not trying to be rude. My brother has Down syndrome. But if you remember the South Park, I don't know if any of you watch South Park, where Cartman joins the Special Olympics and he puts on the bicycle helmet to pretend to be special so he could win the Special Olympics. I don't know. Are these people special, or did they wear helmets because they were ready to F shit up? It's either one or the other. And like I said, found it very, very, very incriminating that these people jumped on me as soon as I confronted the Oregon senator. And Portland, where Antifa is kind of headquartered.
Yeah, we have those photos as well. So we'll pull those photos up from the protest today. And while we're pulling those photos up, though, I just want to get your opinion on this because, I'm hoping that we can move beyond another 4 years of just nonstop Trump bashing from the left. If the Democrats want to redeem themselves or try to save face in any way whatsoever, they will accept the fact that Donald Trump is president. They will try to erase the radical elements within their party. They will take a moral stand against aligning with Islamic terrorists. They will take a stand against promoting insurrection. They will take a stand against the promotion of political violence and the encouragement of assassination threats. And they will try to work with Republicans and the American people on addressing issues of concern without poisoning the conversation with orange man bad rhetoric. And so again, Are there legitimate complaints about technocracy and big tech oligarchy in our country? I believe so. Absolutely. I have talked about this extensively on my show. However, I am not going to, as a way to get my message across, say that, oh, Donald Trump is a dictator and he's killing brown and black kids and he's trying to erode the civil rights of everybody. There's ways to have conversations to make inroads with people in a bipartisan manner without calling for the impeachment of President Trump. And so my biggest concern is that these legitimate issues of campaign finance reform, H-1B visa reform, class consciousness, which is, in my opinion, going to become a major issue ahead of the 2026 elections as we see the billionaire class in our country try to erode the voices of the base and just the American people in general. I see this coming. Some people on the right might be blinded to it, but I personally think that there are a lot of billionaires in our country who are trying to buy our elections on both sides of the political aisle, and they're trying to silence dissent, and they're trying to silence people who would otherwise push for reform. And so I'm hoping that we can have peaceful bipartisan solutions to these issues that matter, get some accountability for big tech oligarchy, get some accountability for big tech censorship and big tech election interference on both sides of the aisle without making it an impeach Trump orange man bad spectacle. So I wanted to address that clip because some people, like I said, and we can go to the comments and get people's reactions to this, but it was all over the news and my phone was blowing up all day about it. But that's my personal opinion about it. That's how I feel about Jamie Raskin saying that he agrees with me and Steve Bannon. I hope that someday we can get to a point in our society where people are able to have bipartisan discussions about issues where there is crossover on both sides of the aisle without dragging Trump into the conversation. Trump doesn't need to be a part of every single conversation. Calling for the impeachment and demonization of Trump doesn't need to be the focal point of every policy discussion in our country. So I don't know if people in the chat agree with me on that or not, but that is my personal opinion. Let's scroll up and see what people say, and we'll move on to those photographs. And look, people have every right to be weary of and also skeptical of big tech executives who are now, influencing our government, whether it's Bezos or Zuckerberg or Elon or whoever. People have a right to be critical, especially when some of these individuals were not always with President Trump. But there's ways to express that criticism without literally aligning with Hamas supporters outside of the White House, right? I want to get your thoughts on that, Charles, because I think there's a time and a place for having this discussion, and I also think that there's a certain way in which these conversations have to be had if you're looking to actually get visibility and acceptance of your message. You cannot incite an insurrection outside of the White House with Palestinian protesters as a background, right? Because that's really what it was. I mean, I'm still processing this from yesterday because I found it to be so shocking. It wasn't an organic protest. It was a co-opt of an anti-Israel protest to basically make it look like thousands of people showed up for a protest against big tech and Elon Musk.
And sadly, yes, I think sadly, congressional Democrats have no interest in coming together and fixing problems. They're going back to their 2020 playbook because if you think about it, they rioted in 2020, right? Kind of the same messaging except the Hamas. Trump's killing black people. Trump's killing brown people. Trump's going to come kill you. Get out to the streets and break shit. And that's basically what the Senate Democrats were saying last night, except they added in a Hamas angle. And if you think about it, as the games in the 2020 election started going, why didn't the Supreme Court take any of the cases? Remember what Chuck Schumer also said in 2020? I want to warn you, Kavanaugh. I want to warn you, Gorsuch. we're going to come after you if you don't do what we say. And I think the Trump DOJ is now investigating Schumer for those comments he made back in 2020. And I truly believe that's why the Supreme Court did not take any of those election cases. They were scared to death. And if you remember, Antifa was going to Supreme Court justices' homes. And now in 2024, the left kind of pulled back their violence. Obviously, the Hamas people had a few riots in D.C., but it was nothing like the summer of 2020. And maybe elected Democrats and the DNC were like, the only way I think we can win is if we cause riots, scare the American people, scare Trump supporters out to vote, scare people to talk about our cheating, and then we can win in 2026 and 2028. Because it seems the left understands that violence encouraged by their leaders, right? Chuck Schumer threatened the Supreme Court in 2020. And who was on the steps of the riot last night inciting, oh, look, Chuck Schumer. And they're going back to that playbook because sadly that's the only way they can win. And Trump supporters cannot become afraid of these people because I have a bad feeling these riots are going to spread out of Washington, D.C. and start going to other cities. And just like in 2020, if y'all remember, Washington, D.C. was like the first city to burn. And then Philadelphia burned. And before we knew it, Kenosha was burning. And all these smaller Midwest towns were literally on fire. And it took time, right? It took like 6 months. Like, they were protesting a thing and burning D.C. before George Floyd even happened. And then George Floyd happened, and they really started burning D.C., and it just spread. And I don't think the Rittenhouse in Kenosha happened until around like late July. But D.C. was burning in literally early June. So I think that's what they're trying to do. I can see it. They're inciting their base to get violent because they think that's the only way they can win, because they're trying to scare the courts, and they're not stepping in with their cheating in 2026. It's that obvious. Like, I don't want to say it's that obvious, but I truly believe that's what's going on. They don't care about you. They don't care about your safety. All they care about is getting their power back so they can get their money back. Because, like I've been saying, their government
Well, and that's why they're
gangsters.
freaking out about USAID is because that's their money. I mean, we saw today that Politico didn't even meet payroll. And then people are like, oh, how did Politico not meet payroll? And then, oh, yeah, we find out today that USAID has been completely subsidizing Politico to the tune of $39 million. And it come to find out that Politico was getting taxpayer funding to fund their media operation, which, if you look at a lot of their previous articles, Politico is one of the entities out there that pushed the story that the Hunter Biden laptop story was Russian disinformation. And so now we have examples of millions of dollars of our taxpayer money going towards funding state media operations in election years to commit election interference. So this is a massive scandal. This is a massive scandal. Every single leftist operative, every single left-wing media entity, every single Democrat think tank is now being traced directly back to USAID, and they are freaking out because that's their money, that's their funding. And we're going to find out just how many Democrats are going to have discrepancies in their next campaign financial disclosures or their fundraising reports, because I have a feeling that it was just one big money laundering operation, one big recycling bin, a never-ending rotation of billions of dollars, right? $50 billion a year going into the bank accounts of leftist politicians, leftist think tanks, and leftist political operatives who have been organizing and orchestrating a lot of the chaos here and abroad. I mean, some of the money, the $50 billion from USAID, is funding the entire media operations of foreign countries. 30 countries, according to reports I saw today, are entirely funded in terms of their media. The media of 30 separate sovereign nations is completely bankrolled by USAID. You're basically utilizing taxpayer money to have state-run media to push for regime change or the interests of whichever regime, right? Whoever's in charge of the United States government at the time that these funds were implemented, in this case under the Biden regime, want power. So it's a waste of billions of American taxpayer dollars. And I think that there's going to be a lot of lawsuits, I imagine, because I already saw it today. I mean, myself included. I was like, wait, so these articles in which they were saying that, oh, Republicans are warning that Donald Trump's ties to Laura Loomer could be bad for him. They made up all these lies about me when I traveled to the debate with President Trump on his airplane to make it seem like I was such a liability and that I should never be able to work with Trump. It's state-sponsored tortious interference and election interference to push a narrative to attack Donald Trump in an election year and to tortiously interfere with my employment with the Trump administration. I mean,
and all this was happening
now that
too,
we find out that it's state-sponsored
on the Senate Democrats. Interesting. So Congress, who approves all of this, which was in control, remember the Senate Democrats had control of the Senate. So we were really exposing Tester, exposing Sherrod Brown, exposing Bob Casey. They all lost. So as we were exposing them, and their poll numbers were literally in free fall because we were exposing them.
That's when all these attacks came out.
Political started attacking you, like magically.
Magically, yes. Right as I was making videos in support of people at the NRSC and in support of Republicans who were trying to flip Senate races, they literally spent, and I'm not exaggerating, I did the math, with all the mainstream media coverage and attacks and hit pieces on me and all the late night comedy shows and all the primetime coverage slots in prime election season time slots and prime TV slots. Okay. We're not just talking about any time slot. It's very expensive to run commercials and very expensive to get on air a month before the election. It was $100 million of earned media. They spent $100 million in launching an anti-Laura Loomer campaign a month before the election in an effort to damage me and to try to damage Donald Trump. No, that is not an exaggeration on the numbers. It was literally $100 million. And so it makes me wonder how much more money was used to fund this election interference and tortious interference, and how many other people were attacked. Are all of the articles against RFK Jr. and calling him an anti-vaxxer coming out of Politico, is that all sponsored by the state as well? Is the state, is our government sponsoring all of these attacks on all the Trump nominees when they do these hit pieces on them in Politico the same way they did it to me? So if you haven't seen the story today, you can go look it up. It's pretty shocking. I want to take a couple comments and then get your closing remarks before we close out tonight, Charles. I know tomorrow you're going to go back tomorrow to Capitol Hill because that's the hearing for Kash Patel. They're taking the vote to move him out of committee. And if he successfully passes this vote in his committee, then he can move on to a floor vote in the Senate to become the next FBI director, as long as the 53 Republicans decide to actually express their Republican majority, as opposed to caving with the Democrats and acting like a bunch of rhinos. So we will see you tomorrow morning up on Capitol Hill. Any last comments or remarks or anything you want to add, Charles?
Yeah, I was going to say it's going to be a crazy next 72 hours. Also, what's going on tomorrow is it's likely that the Senate is going to break the Tulsi Gabbard and RFK Jr. filibuster. But since the Democrats are so lame and won't work with Republicans to sign on to 60 votes, Kash and Tulsi have 36 hours of debate after they break the filibuster tomorrow. So guess what? We could be working on Friday night. We could be working on Saturday morning. Or John Thune could recess and Kash and Tulsi won't get voted on until Monday. But we're going to get the answers tomorrow. Finally, I know a lot of people are like, hey, one of these floor votes happening. Tomorrow, after the Kash vote, it's go time on those. And then after Kash gets voted out of committee tomorrow, which he's going to be approved by the Senate Judiciary Committee. It's probably going to be a party line vote. He's going to win by one. Okay, he'll win by one. And then his floor vote, they're going to have to break the filibuster on him after they hopefully confirm RFK Jr. and Tulsi. So depending on when they set those votes, they could vote to break the Kash filibuster either, like I said, late Friday night, early Saturday morning, or Monday. And then once they break the Kash filibuster, then Kash has another 36 hours to wait, and they have floor debates, and they're going to call Kash a Nazi, blah, blah, blah. They're probably going to bring that poster actually back to the floor.
I wonder if they're going to bring the poster. Oh, my God.
Kash to be like, you suck. Because like I tried to get it for you the other time, and they're like, no. And they kind of hit me like, oh, they have a floor vote. They're gonna bring it to. So maybe we can get it after the floor vote. I think we can, but. I checked. No, Laura, I seriously
Let's
checked.
get the poster up on screen.
And it wasn't down
It's crazy.
There. So, like,
it's so crazy. We'll get the poster up on screen. I wonder if USAID paid for the poster too. Maybe USAID
probably did.
Maybe USAID
really
paid for the poster.
It would have been expensive to print. Paid for by you. Isn't that the worst part?
Yeah, this is a real life-size poster that the Senate Judiciary Democrats printed and brought to the FBI hearing. So Kash Patel was basically interrogated about why he took a photo with me at a book signing at the FBI confirmation hearing for Kash Patel. This was last week, in case you missed it. So pretty outrageous. Totally outrageous. But this is what our lawmakers are wasting your taxpayer money on. They're spending your money on life-sized Laura Loomer posters. So, hey, at least they chose a nice photo of me, right? At least they chose a nice photo. That's like the most book promotion I've ever had. So shout out to Senator Dick Durbin for the shameless book plug. Thank you, Dick Durbin, for promoting my book. You can get that book, Loomered, How I Became the Most Banned Woman in the World, on my website, loomered.com, in the orders section. So thank you, Senator, for the book plug. When I was drinking my coffee last week, I swear to God, I was still wearing my workout clothes because, you know, I wear my workout clothes and I like do a lot of my work and I check my emails and then I like try to go pace around and get my steps in and drink some more coffee, right? Before I get ready because my show's in the evening. I'm like hanging out, drinking my morning coffee in my workout clothes, and I have the different hearings on different like flat screen TVs in my house because I have one big TV and then I have the dual monitor system and then I have my phone and I have my laptop. So I was trying to watch like the news and then I was trying to watch Kash Patel's hearing and Tulsi Gabbard's hearing at the same time, right? And then I had my dashboard pulled up on the monitor. And then all of a sudden, my phone's blowing up. And behind me, because there was a 5-minute delay, because I was watching the AP stream from the Associated Press on their live stream online, there was a 5-minute delay on the stream I was watching. So my phone is blowing up, and people are like, "Oh, they just mentioned you during the Senate hearing for Kash Patel for his confirmation hearing." And then I hear it behind me, of course, 5 minutes later because there was a 5-minute delay. And it's such a surreal moment. I mean, talk about the weaponization of government and political targeting. Why is a photo of a private citizen who's also a journalist at a book signing being used as a form of intimidation or as an item of attack by the ranking member of the Senate Judiciary Committee to interrogate the incoming FBI director?
Yeah, it's pretty wild. And he doesn't like us very much. He always says hello. Today he was kind of pretty sarcastic. See you tomorrow, Dick Durbin. We'll have some fun questions for you. I want to say that.
Yeah, we'll see Loomer Unleashed tomorrow up on Capitol Hill, bright and early at 10:15 a.m. Eastern is when Kash Patel is going to be having this hearing. So Charles will be up on Capitol Hill. I'll have to call you after the show tonight, and we'll have to script our questions for Senator Dick Durbin and Cory Booker and the other members of the Senate Judiciary Committee. So we'll have to.
A lot of real winners on there.
That's what we do every morning. Charles and I wake up early, and then we draft questions to ask these senators, and then Charles goes and he goes on his way, and that's what happens. Happy hunting.
Yeah, they get angry, and it's great, but. Yeah, tomorrow is going to be pretty crazy. And then who knows where free Palestine people and the lazy federal employees, or as I like to call them, unelected bureaucrats, they'll probably show up again tomorrow complaining because, you know, they can just skip work, get paid by you guys, and complain about Donald Trump all day. That seems to be the left's new playbook. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be
Well, it's going to be another great day. So be sure that you're following at Laura Loomer and at Loomer Unleashed on X so that you don't miss those videos, and follow at The Charles Downs, right? The Charles Downs. Your Twitter is starting to really blow up. It's just like blowing up with these videos over the last few days. So if you're not following Charles already and you're watching live, because we apparently have 105,000 live viewers right now just on X alone. So shout out to everybody. 108 now. If you're watching live on X, thank you so much. Be sure that you're retweeting this live stream. If you're watching on Rumble, be sure that you're retweeting or reposting the Rumble live stream, because that's incredible. 108,000 live viewers on X alone. So please be sure that you're following all of our accounts at Laura Loomer, at Loomer Unleashed, and at the Charles Downs. Charles, good luck tomorrow. It's going to be another exciting day of Loomer videos. But thanks for all your hard work.
It's going to be great.
Thanks for all your hard work, and keep up the fight, Charles. Great job.
Oh, thanks, Laura. And like I said, see you tomorrow, Dick Durbin. We're going to have so much fun together. And my friend, Senator Booker. Can't wait to see you. We know the Senate staffers are watching this, so see you guys tomorrow.
Thank you. Well, if you have any questions, please be sure that you're putting your questions in the chat. I want to take a few more questions before we close out tonight, but pretty incredible. I mean, it's just pretty incredible how these senators have no sense of accountability whatsoever. None of them want to answer any questions whatsoever. And it's going to be really interesting to see what kind of tricks they play tomorrow, bright and early, 10:15 a.m. Eastern, right? Where we're up much earlier than that, scripting these questions and tracking these people, because you have to be very quick. You have to be very fast to find these lawmakers. We're very good at tracking them down and finding them out in the wild up on Capitol Hill. But tomorrow, up on Capitol Hill, Kash Patel is going to have his committee hearing vote. So we wish him the best. I want to take a moment to thank the sponsor of tonight's episode of Loomer Unleashed again, Kirk Elliott Precious Metals. Don't let the green agenda tick you off and put you into a tailspin when you can take advantage of it. There is one commodity that is needed for solar power, battery power for electric vehicles, nuclear power, and is a vital component in missiles, torpedoes, and aerospace. Silver is needed for all of that, and recent developments are creating an insurmountable problem for all of these industries. Physical silver is running out, and when it runs out, well, you're going to want to be the person that has access to it, because these manufacturers are going to want to pay almost any price and simply pass it on to the consumer or you, the taxpayer. But what if you were the person that owned what they are going to inevitably need? You can be that person by calling Kirk Elliott Precious Metals today to purchase physical silver. I've chosen and decided to partner with Dr. Kirk Elliott and Kirk Elliott Precious Metals because Dr. Kirk cares about you. He's trustworthy, he's honest, and he educates you before you make a purchase to make sure that you really understand what's happening and that it's the right decision for you. He only deals with low-cost bullion that doesn't carry high premiums, and what I love is that physical metals can even be placed in your IRA. So call Dr. Kirk Elliott today at 720-605-3900. Again, that's 720-605-3900, or visit kepm.com/Loomer. That's kepm.com/Loomer. Visit Kirk Elliott Precious Metals today. Let them know that Laura Loomer sent you. Call them at 720-605-3900. If you weren't watching this weekend, we had Dr. Kirk Elliott on the program to talk about the Trump tariffs and how silver, especially in the aftermath of the implementation of these tariffs on Mexico, Canada, and China, silver and gold are reaching all-time highs. So you want to get in on silver and gold, call Dr. Kirk Elliott Precious Metals, 720-605-3900, kepm.com/Loomer. All right, we're going to take a few more questions and then we'll close out for the evening, and then we'll return for another episode of Loomer Unleashed tomorrow evening. Let's see. Scroll down. If you have any questions, please be sure you're putting it in the chat. Also, if you are watching live on Rumble right now, please be sure that you subscribe to my locals. You can do so by clicking the Get Loomered button next to the follow button on the Rumble stream, and you can even gift subscriptions to people who are watching live as I speak. And so if you want to support independent journalism, you can support for $7 a month or $70 a year, and you have the opportunity to gift subscriptions. You can click subscribe, give once, monthly, or annual. And also my monetization has been restored on X. So breaking news, I know we haven't talked about that since I last broadcasted. It happened the other evening, late at night. I don't know how it happened, but it happened. And Elon Musk actually, when I said, thank you, Elon Musk, for giving me back my monetization, he actually replied and said, you are welcome. So thank you. I'm glad that he made the right decision and actually decided to give me back my monetization. But unfortunately, what happened is when I was demonetized, I had about 2,000 subscribers. And then when they gave me back my monetization, they dropped it to like 627. So they must have canceled a bunch of my subscribers when they sent out that message that said that they were canceling the subscriptions. So unfortunately, some of you who were previously subscribed to me got unsubscribed. So please be sure that if you were subscribed on X and you didn't subscribe elsewhere, that you resubscribe on X and that you make sure that your subscription was not canceled, because the majority of my subscriptions were canceled. And unfortunately, even when I was remonetized, they were not returned. So I'm hoping that we can rebuild those numbers up, because, you know, it's a lot of subscriptions to lose. See. And then Rumble also has a new creator dashboard too. So congratulations to the Rumble team and Chris Pavlovsky. That's pretty exciting. Tomorrow it's going to be my 100th show. Marnie says, when is your 100th show? It's going to be tomorrow. So as of tomorrow, we're going to have 100 episodes of Loomer Unleashed. So pretty exciting and pretty incredible to think that I've done 100 episodes of Loomer Unleashed tomorrow. So that will be a pretty special day. Alrighty, everybody. Well, thank you so much for your support and all of your comments. Thank you for the super chats tonight. I really appreciate your support. I hope you enjoyed tonight's show. And we're going to be posting the clips on X and on True Social and all my socials in the coming days. So please be sure that you are following me at Laura Loomer, following at Loomer Unleashed on X, and also at The Charles Downs. And you'll be able to see all of the clips and watch the replay. If you're joining the stream late, you can watch the replay on X and also by visiting my Rumble channel, rumble.com/Laura Loomer. Oh, we just got a super chat as we were closing out. You should post on X that Elon and Pam Bondi should make the names of the members of Congress that used illegal taxpayer slush funds public and the Treasury paid back. Yeah, for all the sex scandals, right? For the members of Congress that paid off their sexual harassment scandals with taxpayer money. So maybe that's going to be released. That'd be really great if we can get those names. It would be pretty incredible. But with that, thank you so much for tuning in tonight. And I will see you tomorrow for the 100th episode of Loomer Unleashed. Thanks for watching and have a great night.
There is a young female journalist, conservative journalist by the name of Laura Loomer.
If America's men acted like Laura Loomer, our problems will be fixed in about 5 minutes.
Chained herself to
She
Twitter.
chained her.